Welcome back to Last of Us Mondays on an actual Monday. Yeah, I actually was able to get it out on a Monday this week. And I'm going to be talking about The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 4, and definitely talking about some spoiler stuff that happened in this episode and the previous 3 episodes and the stuff that happens in the games to this point, so if you haven't done any of those things, you don't want to know what's going to be happening, click off the video. So Episode 4 of The Last of Us Season 2 picks off exactly where Episode 3 ended, with Ellie and Dina heading to Seattle to find Abby and her friends and deliver some much-needed kick-ass justice, because Joel is dead, and we're very sad about that. And this is an episode that focuses on 2 things. It further establishes the big major players of Seattle and the things and the conflicts that are going on there, while giving us more Ellie-Dina, giving us some moments from Ellie and Dina that actually happened a little bit earlier in the game before Joel's death, but they decided to push these events till afterwards, and we get to see more of their interactions. We also see them first coming into contact with the wolves and some other things. And Josh Peck! Hug me, brother! He's here! For some reason. Yeah, I didn't really expect that. He's in the episode for like 30 seconds, and then, yeah, he dies. Nice to see, though. We love Josh Peck. I actually enjoyed this episode. I do think this show is getting itself back on the right track. I really did not love the first 2 episodes of this season. I thought the season premiered very poorly. It diverted from the games in ways that I don't particularly understand. It made some decisions with some characters that I really liked that I didn't love. I, of course, still have the ongoing problem with Bella Ramsey, not the issue that everybody else has. I don't care about how she looks, how she sounds, or how she acts. I actually think that's all fine. My major issue is she looks like she's 13, and Ellie in the game at this point is supposed to be a grown-ass woman who is believably killing a bunch of different people. And I just don't believe it. This feels like Game 1 Ellie, not Game 2 Ellie. And in the games, there is a distinct difference. Game 1 Ellie and Game 2 Ellie are 2 very, very different people. Outside of that, though, I really enjoyed this episode. Even last week's episode, I had a great time with as well. I love the dynamic between Ellie and Dina. It is super, super strong, and Bella Ramsey and Isabella Merced have extremely good chemistry that is making this dynamic even actually better than the dynamic between those characters in the game. I truly feel like these characters care about each other, more so than I did when I played the video game for the first time. This duo is carrying this show the same way that the Ellie-Joel duo carried the game, and of course the first season of the show, which is definitely something that this season desperately needed at this point, and a lot of the praise has to go to Isabel Merced, who is stealing this season. I mean, my god, this girl is incredible. I've seen her in a bunch of other things. She's been fine in those things. Here, though, this has been... what a standout for her. She is unbelievably good in this show and is stealing every scene as Dina, the only character that I think has been done better on live action screen than it was in the video game. She is amazing. Props to Isabel Merced. And I love what her and Ellie go through in this episode. Some of it is ripped from the game, some of it is a little bit newer, but we see them kind of sparking their love story for the first time, and I actually really like how it happened in the show compared to the game. I'm gonna nitpick some small things that I didn't love. So in the game, they really kind of assert the fact that they're gonna be together pretty early on, before Joel actually dies. Here, we see them get to Seattle, we see them encounter the wolves for the first time, and also the scars and what they've done. You get this great image that we actually get from the games where they encounter the aftermath of what the scars, who are like this other group in Seattle, which I'll talk about in a second, what they've done to a bunch of wolves, and they're just so grotesque by what has gone on in Seattle. And the scene that we have played out of them actually, like, being chased by the wolves and hiding from the wolves is probably the closest I've seen them get to in these 2 seasons of television so far, to actually visualizing how it feels to play the game in those stealth sequences when you have all these different people hunting you and you have to run away and there's this tension. They do a really good job of building that suspense in that scene. It's the first time that I really think they attempted to capture the game's gameplay in live action. I was very impressed by that. They follow suit as the game did, where they end up going into this tunnel and encountering a bunch of infected, and Ellie gets infected again. But guess what? She's immune. Dina doesn't know that at this point. In the game, it's very much just kind of a conversation, and that's it. In the show, because the infection, the way they pitch it, is that it's very, very fast in how it infects people and how people turn. So Dina, understandably, thinks she has to kill Ellie. She's gonna have to shoot her here, and there's this extremely emotional scene where that's obviously devastating towards Dina, and Ellie is trying to convince her, hey, I'm immune. You don't have to shoot me. That wouldn't be very nice. And this whole sequence with Dina and everything was done super, super well. I think there's a little bit too much of Dina just immediately being like, I'm killing your ass. Like, I know we're, like, in love, but I'm killing your ass because I don't trust you. Like, it's almost like a little bit too sort of confrontational. Whereas I would have rather it be more like when Joel finds out that Tess is infected in the first game, where it's just like, shit. But I think the scene is done well here, and then obviously you get like their love story after they finally come together, and I think it works really, really well, and that sets us up for finally them going deeper into Seattle and getting this big revenge story and uncovering what's going on between the Wolves and the Scars and Jeffrey frickin' Wright. Let's talk about Jeffrey Wright. Because Jeffrey Wright is a part of the game, and he's playing the same character that he plays in the game, and my god, Jeffrey Wright came into this show like Obi-Wan on Mustafar, just here to save the day, because Jeffrey Wright is amazing, and he's so good here. And I will say, the one aspect of the second game that I don't think gets talked about enough is Seattle, and this conflict between these two groups, the Wolves and the Scars, and the history of those two groups, and how they formed, and the psychology of this war, and everything going on is one of the most fascinating parts of the second game. And in that game, we don't really get too directly involved in it, at least as Ellie. When you're playing as Ellie, you're really seeing kind of this conflict from the middle of it. You're getting, you know, if you explore the world and you pick up pages, you can learn a lot of the world building stuff, but that's not the core story here. The core story is Ellie's quest for revenge against Abby. And once the game flips and you get to play as Abby and you see her perspective of things, you definitely see a lot more of this conflict, and you get to meet Jeffrey Wright's character, who is kind of the leader of the Wolves. One of the aspects the show actually has an advantage over the game in doing is they can actually explore this group, this battle, this war, the Scars, the psychology of it all, way more than the game got to do, because they have a little bit more runtime, and they have more space to do things. And we see it very blatantly in this episode with Jeffrey Wright. We get to see a backstory for him and how he ended up joining the Wolves. We get to see how he perceives the Scars and his view of this conflict, and I really think there's a lot of potential here to do something special with that character and with that side of this larger story that, in the game, yes, I do like the idea of Ellie just stumbling into this conflict and having to learn things on its own. There's a real tension there when you don't know who the Wolves are and what their history is, and these Scars and these creepy cold people, and they're just murderous, and you don't know the context to all of it, but you don't need to, because that's not really Ellie's story. I understand that doing it that way in the show would have been beneficial as it is, and getting a lot more of that context this early in the story is certainly a choice, but so far, I'm down for it, because it is one of the coolest, most unspoken parts of the game, that conflict in Seattle, these two awesome groups, and Jeffrey frickin' Wright. He is so good, and he adds so much character to this show. I'm excited to see how far they go with it. The one thing I will say is the Scars have been presented in a way that I'm not totally a fan of yet. We've seen clips of them from their perspective, just being these good, great, amazing people. We've seen this one Scar getting tortured in this episode, and when the Scars are introduced in the game, they really are just this devilish cult that are doing this brutal, absolute grotesque things to people they perceive as their enemies. And they're terrifying and absolutely horrifying to fight and go up against. It's super suspenseful. It's only later in the game you start seeing the other side of that conflict. You start seeing their perspective on things. And I feel like jumping the gun a little bit to let the audience know, like, hey, these guys aren't really that bad. They're a little creepy, but they're not that bad. It's certainly concerning. I wish our first introduction to them would have been like our first introduction to them in the game. I wish, honestly, that scene with Ellie and Dina stumbling in and seeing what they had done, that would have been a great, like, these people are fucking serious, man. But overall, I really enjoyed this episode. I'm excited to see where this season's going. It's becoming very apparent to me that they're not telling the whole story of the second game in this season, and more than likely, we're just seeing Ellie's side of the story this season, and then Season 3 will probably mostly be following Caitlin Dever's Abby and her journey as all of these events are taking place, which I'm sure people are going to be so thrilled about. Maybe they actually will be, because apparently the audience, they don't like Bella Ramsey, so maybe they'll like Season 3 better. I'll tell you, when the game did that, people did not enjoy it. So, we'll see. But I am excited to see how they're going to do Ellie's half of the story and some of the big story beats that are coming up, some of the big moments. I am really excited about it. I think they've set themselves up in a way that, yes, it did start not very good, but they found their way, and so far, I'm actually enjoying this season more than I thought I was going to after Episode 2 a couple weeks ago. So I'm very impressed. The last 2 episodes have been very good. I'm pleasantly surprised. What do you guys think of Episode 4 of Season 2? Let me know down below. Make sure to like this video, subscribe for more. I'll see you in the next one.